What's up, YouTube? This is Gerard with Kingdom Image Fitness, and today I would like to continue our discussion on things that we may not know are derailing our fitness goals. Now, in this installment of the series, I would like to discuss the effects that our sodium intake can have on weight loss. Now, I will start off by saying that sodium is a vital nutrient that is used by our bodies in many different ways. It helps our muscles to contract as well as helps to send various nerve impulses throughout our bodies, so small amounts of it are needed in our diet. Also, most table salt has small amounts of iodine added to it, which plays a very important role in thyroid function. Now, iodine deficiency is a serious issue, and although we can get it from other healthy sources such as milk, eggs, and cheese, iodine content is not listed on nutrition labels. Lastly, I would like to make sure that we are all on the same page in understanding that sodium and salt are not the same thing. Sodium is a mineral or a nutrient, and salt is an actual chemical compound formed from the joining of two separate minerals, sodium and chloride. What we know today as salt is actually 40% sodium and 60% chloride. So even by reducing our daily salt intake, it may not reduce our sodium levels below the daily recommendations. And this is due to the fact that over 75% of the sodium that is in our diets actually comes from processed or restaurant foods and not added table salt. This is why checking the nutritional information on the products that we buy, as well as accurately tracking all of the foods that we consume, is so important. Now, we will discuss this more in a moment in regards to how we can limit the sodium intake in our diets, but some other sources of sodium to look for on nutrition labels are sodium bicarbonate, MSG, and sodium nitrate. Now, sodium bicarbonate or baking soda actually contains over 1,200 milligrams of sodium per teaspoon. Now, the daily recommendation for sodium intake is currently set at 2,300 milligrams per day for healthy individuals. Now, this number is, of course, lower for individuals who may be suffering from heart disease or high blood pressure, and this level is set at 1,500 milligrams a day. It should be noted that the Institution of Health actually has both of these numbers much lower. Now, to quickly put this in perspective, 2,300 milligrams is the equivalent of sodium found in 2.5 Big Macs without the fries, or 11.5 individual salt packets. Now, looking at it this way, it would seem that it would be very difficult for one to ingest more sodium than that in one day. But sadly, this is usually very far from the case. Studies have shown that the average American consumes anywhere between 3,400 to 10,000 milligrams of salt daily. Now, fluids are actually attracted to sodium like a magnet. So in the short term, too much sodium in our diets can lead to puffiness, bloating, as well as water retention. Now, in the long term, this extra fluid in our bodies actually puts extra stress on our heart and affects our blood pressure. Now, high blood pressure can be such a serious condition, not only because of the many issues that it makes us more susceptible to, such as kidney disease and strokes, but also it is known as the silent killer. And this is because many times high blood pressure has no symptoms at all. Now, many of us know these facts, but most of us don't realize that a high sodium intake is about a lot more than water weight gain. Recent studies are also showing that our sodium intake is directly related to the rise in obesity rates in many different ways. Now, one of these reasons is the fact that even though when we ingest too much sodium, we retain water, in an attempt to flush the extra sodium from our bodies, our thirst is increased. This is why many bars and restaurants serve salty snacks such as pretzels and peanuts, because when we consume these snacks, we would drink more. Now, the major issue when it comes to increased thirst from a high sodium intake is the fact that usually the drinks that we reach for are high-calorie, sugary drinks. Now, many of us aren't going to McDonald's or Burger King and ordering a water. The majority of us are having a soda along with these meals. Not to mention the fact that the average soda has between 30 to 50 milligrams of sodium itself. Now, recent studies have also estimated that if we were to simply cut the amount of sodium in our diets in half, our consumption of sugary drinks would drop by at least 2 a week. Sodium has also been shown to encourage overeating due to its taste-enhancing effects on our foods. Now, these studies show a direct relation between the amount of dietary fat that we ingest daily in correlation to our sodium intake. It also shows a direct relationship between this and a higher number of calories consumed daily, as well as binge eating and obesity in children. Now, if this wasn't convincing enough, a new study has just shown a link between obesity and sodium intake, even when taking sugary drinks and high calories out of the equation. Now, when removing these from the study, there were indications that a high sodium diet led to an increase in fat tissue mass. Now, this was shown to be due to changes in insulin and glucose metabolism, which tends to make our bodies favor fat accumulation. Just a 1,000 milligram increase in daily sodium consumption has been shown to increase obesity rates by 28% in children and 26% in adults. So how can we go about limiting the amount of sodium that is in our diets? Well, first, as we discussed earlier, it is very important that we pay close attention to the nutrition labels on the products and foods that we buy. For example, the next time that you decide to buy a pack of chicken breasts, be sure to read the label. Now, we include things like chicken and turkey in our diets as healthier alternatives to eating a lot of fatty meats. But over 1/3 of the chicken and turkey that are found in supermarkets today are injected with a saltwater solution during processing. Now, what the solution does is it plumps up the meat while at the same time adding flavor. An average 4-ounce serving of this chicken can have over 400 milligrams of sodium due to what it's injected with. Now, you can usually spot if you're purchasing some meat like this because it will have a phrase similar to injected with up to 15% chicken broth. Now, when we take this meat and we add marinades or other seasonings to it before cooking it, we are taking a huge chunk out of our daily sodium intake without even realizing it. Now, we can also limit our intake by being very perceptive of the amount of sodium that is in our breakfast cereals. To enhance the taste, many of the healthy and whole grain cereals out there have as much as 150 milligrams of sodium per cup. A lot of the protein powders that we consume have a high sodium content as well. We can also switch to using kosher or sea salts in limited amounts when cooking. A 1/4 teaspoon of regular table salt has 590 milligrams of sodium, whereas the same amount of kosher salt has only 480 milligrams. Now, due to the difference in coarseness between kosher and regular salt, we were able to use a smaller amount of kosher salt and still get the same taste that we're after. Now, sea salts also naturally contain iodine, just like iodized table salt has the iodine added to it. But sea salts also naturally contain calcium, magnesium, and potassium. So to recap, we can see that eating high amounts of sodium is about a lot more than just water weight gain. Studies have shown that getting too much sodium often leads us reaching for high-calorie sugary drinks. Studies have also shown that high amounts of sodium actually make us eat more than we would on a low-sodium diet. Newer studies are shining light on the fact that high amounts of sodium increase the number of fat cells in our body, as well as makes the fat cells that we already have larger. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, sodium and salt are not the same thing. Simply reducing the amount of salt that you ingest in a day does not directly correlate to reduced sodium levels. I hope that everyone found this video helpful and informative, and if you did, please don't forget to like the video to let me know that you enjoy this type of content. Also, please don't forget to comment and subscribe to the channel as well if you haven't already. Be sure to be on the lookout for the final installment of this series where we will continue our discussion on things that we may not realize are hindering our weight loss goals. Well, everyone, this has been Gerard with Kingdom Image Fitness. I hope you all have a blessed and wonderful day, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.